Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second episode of A Focus on Business. And guess what? Last week we threw Rusty under the train wreck, and it wasn't train wreck, but it was still good. And now my poor wife is the second guinea pig. And it's great. You always test everybody. You test everything on family first, right? Rusty, well, and she was going to be first, but she couldn't make it that day. So anyway, here we are. We're with my wife, DeLynn Gaston, and she is with the mortgage firm Trinity. And she has been doing mortgages for like...
Ever.
I wasn't going to say that.
You're just going to say ever.
Ever. So now, because I'm going to jump right in this. Again, A Focus on Business is all about focusing on a business. The whole show, there's 4 segments of this show, and it's kind of amazing that there's 4 parts to getting a mortgage. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce Miss DeLynn and let her tell you about the mortgage firm and herself.
Thank you. So I like to say, I call it the 4 keys before you get your keys, because there are 4 keys to buying a house, the things that you have to go through, the steps and stages. And we'll just kind of mention them briefly, and then we'll go back and we'll go through each one of them. So the key things when you're getting pre-approved, or if you already have a house in mind and you're running to, or under contract and you're running to get your house, we're going to ask you about your income, about your assets, about your debt, who you owe, and then lastly about your credit and such. So it's not just credit. I get a lot of people who will say something like, well, you know, don't make much money, but we have an 800 credit score. It's not just one thing. It's all 4 of those pieces have to work together in order to get approved for a mortgage.
So, okay, so first of all, income. Mm-hmm. Income's a big deal.
You got to have one. You got to have some.
So you tell me I could be out of work? I can be like 2 years off of work and I can't buy a house?
I know.
Well, that sucks.
So it's really the ability to repay. That's what they're looking at. Do you have the ability to repay? Now, years ago, when everybody was doing all of those crazy mortgages, where all you had to do was have a pulse and all you had to do was, breathe on a mirror and you got a mortgage. All that's gone. No such thing anymore. You have to be able to qualify for it. We need to see your income. We need to see how much income do you make. Some of the myths out there about it is that you have to be on the same job for 2 years. No, you don't. No, you could have changed jobs as long as it's in the same line of work. So for example, you're a producer of a television show. If you were to go to Fox 13 or something like that, I'm not supposed to plug somebody else, but but if you were to go to, as long as it's the same line of work, it's fine. Now, you couldn't go from doing this to becoming a fireman or something. That's 2 different lines of work.
As long as you don't change trades.
Industries, change trades.
Okay,
correct.
so as long as I stay in the trade that I'm in, if I go to work for another company, then I'm fine.
Right.
2 years.
2 years. You have to at least have a 2-year history. We don't like seeing large gaps of employment. So if you worked someplace and then you decided to take 6 months off, yeah, they're going to want to know why you took 6 months off.
What if I go continuing education? So say like I'm working for Fox, and then I'm like, I don't want to work for Fox no more, but I want to get more educated, and it takes 6 months so I can work for ESPN.
Yes. That's fine.
That's fine.
Education counts. Or people who are in school, for example, maybe they're going to medical school or something like that, and they've been working at a hospital part-time or something like that while going to school or in any field. Yes, schooling counts. So if they've only been on their job 1 year or something like that, the fact that they've been going to school to become whatever position they have right now for the last 4 years, that counts.
Oh, wow.
So that's fine. The other thing that I wanted to touch on income is a lot of times people also think, well, I'm retired, all I get is Social Security, I can't get a mortgage. Yes, you can get a mortgage, actually. Social Security can count towards your income. Pensions can count, things like that. The other thing, it's not necessarily income, but one of the things along those lines is they say, well, I'm already 65 or 68 years old, I can't get a 30-year mortgage. Yes, you can. We are not allowed to discriminate against age. So you can be 99 years old and get a 30-year mortgage.
Really?
I know.
Hey, there's hope for me yet. That's awesome. That's okay. Well, okay, so go ahead. I'm sorry. So the next one is, okay, what if I'm in a situation, don't want to be in the situation where I'm receiving or getting either
disability, yes.
or
that's the other thing that we get a lot of, right. So somebody who has a disability for whatever reason, veterans or something like that, and they have disabilities and that's the only income they have. Again, that counts as well. So absolutely that is allowed to count. Any kind of income that you're getting. We are not any kind, but that kind of income, any kind of state government assistance, things like that, we are allowed to count that.
What if I hit the lottery and I take the lottery payments for 50 years?
Great question. Great question. From your lips to God's ears, right? Yes. Any kind of, that's like an annuity payment, or if you took all those lotto winnings, and this isn't even in my notes, but it's a great question, and you were to put it with a financial advisor and they had it invested for you. As long as we're getting a continuous, you say, well, I want to pull $5,000 a month to go into my checking account for my income. As long as you have enough to continue your lotto winnings, or enough in that investment account to continue for at least 3 years into the even though we're giving you a 30-year loan, it has to continue for at least 3 years into the future. Then we're allowed to count that.
Okay, so I hear a word called seasoned a lot. Is that what that is?
That has to do with, well, there's a couple of different seasons.
That has the assets part, right?
That's kind of more into assets, yes.
Okay.
We're going to get into that next.
Got it. Well, we'll talk about that next. Well, that's next. Okay, so as long as I've got a 2-year work history, I'm in the same line of work, even though I may be a job jumper, or I've got a good Social Security or disability or a pension or a distribution coming in, or all that can be proved and decent credit.
Right. And then we have to have assets, and we have to have your debts taken into consideration,
which we're going to get to.
But we didn't finish with the income. Look.
Oh, there's more.
He's totally avoiding the last part of income.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Read it.
You got to prove all this. So, how do you? Oh, child support. Yeah. Yeah, we're married, by the way. It's not like this is a bad taboo, but it's like no guy ever wants to say the word.
He's totally not talking about the
child support or alimony.
And alimony. Yes, it does count. We are allowed to count alimony and child support. Here's the key with the alimony and child support, though. Again, has to be a continuance of 3 years. So if your kid is 17 years old, most of the time the divorce decrees or child support agreements say that the income stops at 18 years old unless the child is going on to college. Well, we don't know if your child is going on to college or not, we're going to pretty much pull the plug at 18 years old. So if you're getting child support and he's 17 years old, he or she is 17 years old, we're not going to let that child support income count. However, if they're 10 years old, then yes, it's going to continue for at least 3 more years. We're allowed to count that income.
That was going to ask you, so what is that? It's got to be 3 years.
3 years. Isn't that weird? We're giving you a 30-year mortgage.
On 3 years.
All we care about is the next 3 years.
So what happens? So in 4 years, I can just say I died.
I know.
I'm out. I quit. You can have it. It's all yours. That's weird.
Isn't that weird? I know.
We've only got about 3 minutes left. So what is the proof?
The proof, right. So that's the biggest thing. That's the hardest thing anyway when it comes to proving, especially child support, alimony, that kind of thing. Honestly, guys, we in the industry, we have to get proof that the person is paying it. So whoever is paying, and I don't want to say he or she, whoever is paying the child support or alimony, we need 12 months canceled checks. 12 months of proof that they have paid you that, $500 every single month. And believe it or not, it can't be $450 in February and then $500 the rest of the year. I can't count it.
And so
Isn't
you're
that
saying,
crazy?
So is it checks or can it be bank statements?
Or bank statements, yep. So
as long as you can prove the deposit.
You have to be able to prove, right? So if it's a transfer from, this is the husband's account, transferring it to the wife's account, something like that. I have to be able to see 12 months of that, and it has to be consistent, the same amount of money that has to match the settlement agreement, the child support agreement. Now, it can be a little bit more, maybe,
Never less, always
whatever.
more. Is okay.
Never less. If it's less, it's a problem.
What happens if he or she is late one month and it pays double the next month? Does that mess it all up?
That's a really good question. That's going to look for the fact that they paid it, then that's okay.
That's okay.
Yes. As long as it's been paid. But if it didn't get paid, not going to be able to count any of it.
Wow.
It has to get paid. And so tell your spouse or whoever, your ex-spouse, don't pay you in cash. Cash doesn't count. If I can't verify it, I can't count it. And it does have to be court ordered as well. There's a lot of people out there that they just have a great relationship, and whoever is helping out paying,
right.
and has been, but it's not court ordered. If it's not court ordered,
Wow.
I can't count it. And you could have a 10-year history of it. Doesn't make a difference. If it's not court ordered, he or she can stop the next day.
Holy
So
cow.
if it's not court ordered, I can't count it. I know.
Okay, so
Welcome to my world.
So let me reiterate this: 2 years, school counts, same line of work. You can jump from different company to company, but you got to stay the same line of work. You can count your Social Security, the pension, distribution, child support has got to be proven.
Yep.
Okay.
And alimony.
Alimony, and the age of kids has got to be
Proven. I need
Lester, and to carry that over, it has to be at least 3 more years left.
Yes.
At least.
At least.
So 4 is better.
Yes.
4
absolutely.
is better. So, okay, so that was income. And if that didn't scare you enough, assets is coming next. And that right there is what everybody gets worried about. Because, so we'll be right back after these messages from the people that actually keep me from not being poor. And we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Jerry from Hot Locks Hair Salon. We are conveniently located at 13414 US Highway 19 in Hudson. I've been a local hairstylist in our community for the last 34 years, 7 of which I was an educator. Our passion is the artistry of hair, and Hot Locks is here to help you achieve your perfect image. You can call us at 727-514-9978.
Okay, well, welcome back. And you know what? Income was a big deal.
It is.
A very big deal.
And that's only one of the four.
One of the four before you get your keys, right?
That's right.
4 keys before you get your keys. I like that. That's very witty.
I know. I
You're
would
very
never
smart.
thought of that.
I don't know, but that's smart. That's a smart person right there. So the next thing is assets.
Assets.
Now, out of all the stuff, my notes here that I've got, it looks like almost the biggest. So let's dive right into big assets. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about assets.
Okay. And I've got to tell you, in the entire mortgage process, I tell clients this all the time, in the entire mortgage process, income is whatever, credit is whatever, things like that. Assets, probably the hardest part of the entire thing. The entire thing, it's the hardest part. So checking, savings, you'd think very easy. Oh, here's my checking account statement, here's my savings account statement, and I've been saving money and whatever, and that's fine. All that is good and everything. Unfortunately, during the mid-2000s, there was so much fraud, so much money laundering and things like that going on. So the government, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the mortgage gurus and such, they're all very closely looking at checking and savings. So, for example, you give me your checking account statement, which is fine, and it's got, we are obviously looking for overdrafts. Don't make any. that would be a problem. But they're also going to look and see what other things do you have coming out. So if they all of a sudden see, we're going to get a couple of months of bank statements, and if they see that you have, $254 going out every single month, they're going to say, there's no $254 on your credit report on any of your payments, so what's that? They're going to question that. So be prepared to look for things like that. The other thing is large deposits. That's probably the biggest thing. So I always say to people, whatever you do, never deposit cash. If you are buying a home or looking to buy a home in the near future, don't deposit cash. Call your loan officer, your originator, and say to them first, I have this cash, what do you want me to do with it? If we can only use funds that are verified. I've done loans a lot for people who are servers, waiters, waitresses, things like that. They do deal in a lot of cash. It can be done, but it's very difficult and a lot of hoops to jump through. So just try not to deposit any cash. Let's say you get money from grandma for your birthday or something like that. Again, call your loan officer first to say, I got $500 from grandma for my birthday. What do I do with it? Just to be on the safe side. As long as we can verify it and track it, then that's fine. The other thing that people do sometimes is they might sell an asset. So let's say you have a motorcycle that you're planning to sell, or you have this vintage car, that's worth 20 grand, and you're going to sell that so that you have your down payment and for your down payment and your closing costs and things like that. Again, that's fine, but talk to your loan officer first, because there's steps and stages. So you have this vintage car that you're selling for $20,000, I would need the title showing that you own it in order to be able to sell it. I need the...
Oh, okay.
So you can't sell something you don't own. We're going to make sure that we're going to verify that you own it.
Right.
We want the bill of sale. We're going to want a copy of the person's check, or now chances are, again, don't do cash. Have the person go to the bank and get a cashier's check or something.
Or a money order?
As long as it has their name on it, that's fine. And as long as it's something that I can take a copy of. Do you know it's illegal to photocopy money? It's illegal to photocopy a $20 bill.
Well, I knew, because that's fraud. That's forgery.
Yes, so don't copy money. Always make sure it's something like that. The other thing I was going to say about bank statements, your checking and savings account. So let's say you and I have joint checking account. We also have, maybe you have your own checking account, I have my own checking account, and we switch money back and forth to each other. If in the lending world, if I see that there's money being transferred to you, or you transferring money into my account and I'm applying for the mortgage, they're going to want to see your account too. They want to see where the money's coming from. Anything that comes into the account, we have to track and verify. So I always say to people, this is the hardest part of the whole thing. a lot of people, most people have their paychecks direct deposited, and that's great. But if it's anything other than your direct deposit paycheck, most of the time I need to know what it is and where it came from and why it's there and all of that. So a lot of questions happen.
So if grandma says, oh, honey, here's $5,000 because you're my favorite grandchild.
And you're buying a house.
What do you do with that?
Yes.
If she gives you, well, I mean, if you
That's
get,
like-
first of all, if you put that much money in cash into a bank, doesn't the bank have to call the IRS or
10 grand.
10 grand.
10
okay.
grand is where that
so
happens.
Granny, anything under 10,000 is good.
Right.
But if she gives it, do you have to write a letter for that?
Well, this is what I say to people. If Granny gives you $10,000, give it back. If it's in cash, if Granny gives
Sorry,
you
Granny, you're just, I don't want your money.
If Granny gives you cash, give it back and ask Granny to write you a check.
Okay.
Because it does have to be verified. Yes, and you are allowed to get what's called gifts. Gifts. No
Air
payment.
quotes. Air quotes.
No repayment expected. So no repayment expected. It is a gift from whoever, and it does have to be a family member or a fiance or a life partner, something along those lines.
Okay.
It has to be. So mom, dad, brother, sister, grandma, grandpa, fiance, life partner. That's pretty much the small circle of who the gift can be from.
Okay.
There are also gifts that are allowed from employers sometimes or from grants, things like that. But again, any kind of money that you are getting to put towards the transaction has to be checked, has to be double and triple checked and verified. So don't do anything without talking to your loan officer.
Okay, so I see 2 months check.
2 months. We're going to want 2 months. And usually, honestly, it ends up at 3 months because during the process, which takes usually 30 days, give or take, to do a mortgage, you've gotten another statement. We're probably going to want that statement too. So I need 2 going in, and then chances are the one that comes somewhere in the middle of the whole transaction will need that one as well.
So my next question is okay, so I know they've checked all this stuff beforehand, but
Right.
at closing, do they recheck all this?
No, not as far as the assets go. No, but that's why I say to people, be very careful. Don't deposit anything during this whole transaction because we are going to check. We always need, for example, you're going to give me 2 months bank statements, and here's all the money and everything. But one of the things that you always do is when you first find a house, you're going to write a check for $1,000 or $2,000, something like that. It's called an earnest money, and it goes towards your down payment and such. I need to see that money clearing. So I'm going to need, once that check clears, I'm going to need a printout, I'm going to need the next bank statement, I'm going to need something showing it. Once we've verified all of the funds and everything has cleared that we need to see clear, either grandma's gift money going in,
Right.
grandma who gave you the $5,000, or the earnest money deposit coming out. Once I've verified everything, we're good. Then I don't care what you do with your bank statement.
Okay. So what if I borrow, say I have a 401k and I want to put money towards mine?
That's a great question too. Yes. So that's the other thing. So 401ks. A lot of people think on a 401k, oh, I can't touch that until I retire. Check with your service provider, whoever, whether it's Fidelity or whoever it might be. Check with your human resources department because a lot of times you can either withdraw from your 401k for the purposes of buying a home without any penalty, or you can borrow against your 401k if you still work for the company. But again, check with them, but it is allowed. But again, please don't do anything without talking to your loan officer first because all of that has to be paper trailed as well. I need a paper trail of everything. So if you're borrowing from the 401k or withdrawing from the 401k, when they give you that check from your 401k, copy it before depositing it. If they direct deposit it in, give me a printout showing that it's now gone into your account. We'll also need the proof that it came out of that account. So we're going to need to see, here's the 401k statement showing $10,000 coming out. Here's your deposit into your checking account showing $10,000 going in, and they match and they're about the same time. So
Okay, so what about, so we talked about gifts because of some granny and home
Right.
yards. But so the big thing is I see a big O stars, no unsecured loans.
yes.
Now what is an unsecured loan?
Okay, so what a lot of people were doing in the heyday, and again, this is all was illegal then, is they were teaching people at these classes and such, jack up your credit cards. Go and do a cash advance on all of your credit cards, get the maximum amount that you can, and use that for your down payment money.
Well, wouldn't that mess your credit up?
Back in the day, they weren't looking at, they didn't care about that. They didn't care about debt ratios. It was a crazy, bad, awful time. But anyway, so as far as that goes, but the other thing that some people will do is take a loan out. They'll just go to a bank, and some banks are still doing what's called signature loans. You have good credit, you have good income and everything. You can go and get $10,000 loan, you know, and you sign the loan. We cannot do unsecured loans. Unsecured funds are not allowed to be used unless it's in a savings account or checking account.
Okay.
Now, if you want to take that loan out and you know, or give your car as collateral, that's fine. So let's say you own your car. It's secured at that point.
Okay.
And then I can use that.
Wow, that's
I
amazing.
know.
So you must be verified where the money's coming from. You got to have 2 months of check statements.
Checking, savings, everything.
Everything.
Yes.
You can use 401k.
Yes.
And gifts are okay from a granny or a family member or a life partner or fiance. Okay.
As long as it's all paper trailed.
As long as you can verify
Every bit of it.
absolutely everything you do, and no getting unsecured loans. Okay, so coming up next, we're going to talk about debt. This is what scares. Other than assets, I think this right here is what makes everybody tremble in the knees, because they're like, "Oh my!" Because if I got a
No,
lot
that's
of stuff.
credit. We're saving the best for last.
Oh, really? I would figure it'd be debt because, well, debt can
Debt and
actually,
credit,
debt
they
and
kind
credit
of go hand in hand.
So we'll be right back after these messages, and we'll come back, and we'll talk about the debt part.
Hi, I'm Jerry from Hot Locks Hair Salon. We are conveniently located at 13414 US Highway 19 in Hudson. I've been a local hairstylist in our community for the last 34 years, 7 of which I was an educator. Our passion is the artistry of hair, and Hot Locks is here to help you achieve your perfect image. You can call us at 727-514-9978.
that loves going to the dentist. I love coming to Dr. B.
I like coming to Dr. B because it is fun.
It's a very cool place where I can play and have fun while I make my teeth.
And I can watch my favorite shows on the ceiling TV while they clean my teeth.
Mom loves it because she says that they explain everything and give her the best choices.
And they also teach us how to take care of our teeth.
At Dr. B Pediatric Dentistry, we understand the individuality of each child and offer an exceptional and gentle dental care experience for all children. With our laser procedures, we are able to provide gentler treatments and faster healing time. Call us now to make an appointment.
And the best part is when we are done, we get a chocolate from the treasure tower.
Call Dr. B's Pediatric Dentistry today.
All right, everybody, we're back with Miss DeLynn Gaston for the Mortgage Firm Trinity. There's other mortgage firms, but Trinity's the best one. That's what we say, right?
That's right.
Yep. And behind you, if you notice, there's their website. And you guys have got
have a Lunch and Learn coming
Lunch and Learn
up.
coming up, and we can talk about that before, because
Sure.
instead of just giving just that one, we'll tell them what that's all about, and
Yes.
people can, because that's kind. I went to the first one last week, and it was actually
First one
really,
you went to.
Yeah.
We've been doing them for a few years.
Yeah. So let's talk about debt.
Okay.
Can I sit back and just
So-
lean back and let you have all this?
Sure. So, as I said, there's the 4 keys before you get your keys. So we talked about income, we talked about assets. The next step is debt. There's what's called a debt to income ratio that you have to stay within. So this is what your income is, and this is what your monthly debt is. There's a certain ratio that you have to stay within line. That's how we qualify you. So when people say, well, I don't know what I qualify for a mortgage, how do I figure out how much I qualify for? What is your monthly debt and what is your monthly income? We're not going to use all of it, because your monthly income, we're going to use the gross amount, which is from that, they have to take your FICA taxes, your Social Security taxes, your life insurance, your car insurance, all of that stuff comes out. We're kind of concerned with, after everything, what have we got left over that you're going to be able to use for a mortgage payment? A lot of times I will say to somebody, what you qualify for and what you're comfortable with are 2 different things. So I like to find out from people first, what are you comfortable with for a mortgage payment? Well, I pay $1,200 a month in rent right now, and that's pretty comfortable. That's great. That gives us a starting point, and then I'll work that number backward and say, okay, if you want to keep your payment at $1,200, this is how much house you can buy. The other way is qualifying, taking all of your debt into consideration and all of your income and working the numbers backward based upon the ratios to see what you have. Now, what counts and what doesn't count? This is something that a lot of people get very confused on. So what counts is any kind of loan payment, any kind of a loan car. Well, I always say, let's start right off with cars. Almost everybody has car payments. Car payment being either a loan or a lease. It's going to count into your debt to income ratio. Student loans, personal loans, credit union loans, furniture loans, there's like rooms to go and things like that. All of that stuff is going to count. In addition to that, credit cards, whatever credit card debt you have. We're not going to, now you might have credit cards that you're trying to pay down, so maybe you're paying, $300 a month on it or something like that. All we care about from our standpoint from qualifying is the minimum payment. So you could pay $300 a month because you're trying to chunk down on your balance, which is good, admirable, but if your minimum payment is $50, that's all I have to count into your debt ratios. Just to keep that in mind. And then the other thing that counts that a lot of people don't realize as well is alimony or child support. Again, it can be on the income side and it's also on the debt side. So if you are paying alimony and child support, then that's going to have to factor into your debt ratio as well.
Okay, that's a lot.
I know.
That is a ton of. Now, what about student loans?
Yeah, I know. So I know. Did you notice in the notes here? Okay, because student loans are different. It used to be, if the student, and from going to school, if any of you had student loans, they don't make you start paying your student loans back. They defer your payment until 6 months after you graduate college before you have to start making your payments. And it used to be, as long as the student loan was deferred for more than 12 months, we didn't have to count it into your debt ratio. Not so much anymore.
So they changed it to 6 months?
They changed it to regardless of how.
Oh, really?
When. Yes, you could, and I have people tell me all the time, well, I'm still in school, I'm not making a payment. I still have to take a payment into consideration. So if if the student loans are deferred or you're still in school, so you don't even have to start making payments yet, I have to, based upon the balance, I have to factor in a payment. Either what we use, either what comes up on the credit report, depends on the program, and believe it or not, everybody, Fannie Mae is different from Freddie Mac, is different from FHA, is different from VA, is different from, everybody does it differently. So I have charts that I go by to see, okay, where's this one, so that we could figure out how much we're using for a student loan payment. What happened, because we weren't, because these were deferred, okay, so we weren't counting them, and some people, if, let's say you were a doctor, I mean, they could have like, $200,000 in student loan debt, and we weren't counting any payments on that because it was deferred. Well, then all of a sudden, the 6 months is up, and it's not deferred anymore, and all of a sudden they're hit with this $1,000 a month payment. Now their mortgage goes delinquent because now they can't make their payments because they're paying the student loan debt. So, which is very smart of the government to do. They changed all of the guidelines and everything a lot in the last several years. And that's one of the big changes that got made is student loans, regardless of whether it's deferred or not, regardless of if they're still in school, we have got to count a payment of some kind against them. And again, like I said, depending upon which program you go with, it changes. Yeah, don't get me started.
Wow. I mean, okay, so all loans, car payments. So you're telling me before I close on my house?
All of this gets checked.
All of it?
All of this gets checked. I'm not even going to let you, this is why I like talking to people first, before you even go house hunting, before you even start, stepping out, and most of the realtors, if you're working with the realtors, one of the first questions they're going to say is, have you been qualified yet? Because they don't want to put you in your car and show you a whole bunch of houses that you're going to love, and then you come for a mortgage and you get denied. Nobody wants you to go through that. So they're all going to want you to talk to a mortgage person first, get pre-qualified first, go through all of this with a loan officer, make sure you're lined up right to buy a house. I love getting people early enough so that I can make sure, and I tell them things like, don't deposit cash. We're going to look at the last 2 months. So if you have cash, deposit it now, and then we'll wait 3 months to buy a house,
Right.
So that we can.
So, okay, so in your debt that you've checked, I know I've heard you say this, and I've heard other people say this. Right before closing, what are you not supposed to do? Because you can mess your debt ratio up, right? Okay, so
Good point. I didn't write that down either. Yes, good point. Please, please, please don't have anybody pull your credit. Don't go get a new car loan. Don't go get a new credit card. I don't care if Home Depot, you're going to get a sit-down lawnmower because you just bought a house with, you didn't close yet, but you just bought a house with, 2.5 acres. Don't, and they're going to give you 20% off if you open up a credit card. Say no. Resist the urge. Say no. Because right before closing, we are going to run your credit again. It's called a soft pull, but we are going to check to make sure you didn't do anything dumb like open up a new credit card or get a new car loan or something like that. They're going to recheck right before closing. They're going to recheck your credit. They're going to make sure you didn't open up any new debt, and then and if you did, guess what? It could ruin the whole thing, but it's going to send the whole thing back to underwriting so that they can make sure, okay, now we've got a new Home Depot payment, and his Home Depot payment is going to be $100 a month. Well, does that fit into your debt to income ratio? So just don't. Just don't.
Just don't.
I had somebody else one time, I don't know how much time we have, but I had somebody else one time who said,
we got 2 minutes.
Okay, I had somebody else one time who had a car loan. Here's the trick to car loans. Not leases, but car loans. Sometimes, if it only has a few payments left on it, I don't have to count it into the debt to income ratio because maybe it only has, 4 payments left on it or 6 payments left on it or 10 payments left on it.
Right.
I don't have to count it into the debt to income ratio. So I had somebody one time who their car payment was like $280 a month or something, and I wasn't counting it at all because it had like 3 months left. Well, guess what they did? They went out and they got a new car.
Oh, great.
And he said to me, yeah, but my payment on this one is only $198 a month.
So
I don't care. I wasn't counting anything.
Even though he traded it in,
yes,
and got a new car. He went from his debt.
He went from having
no
car payment
that's so bad.
in my underwriting because
man.
it was almost paid off.
Right.
To now having $200 a month, $198 a month more in debt, and that killed the deal.
So with that being said,
don't do anything.
We're going to, because I know the next segment is the last one, and she says this is the most scariest one of all. So we'll give a little extra time on that one. So then we're going to come back. We're going to talk about credit and how it affects getting the mortgage. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Jerry from Hot Locks Hair Salon. We are conveniently located at 13414 US Highway 19 in Hudson. I've been a local hairstylist in our community for the last 34 years, 7 of which I was an educator. Our passion is the artistry of hair, and Hot Locks is here to help you achieve your perfect image. You can call us at 727-514-9978.
One bee that loves going to the dentist. Here comes to Dr. B. It's a very cool place.
At Dr. B Pediatric Dentistry, we understand the individuality of each child and offer an exceptional and gentle dental care experience for all children. With our laser procedures, we are able to provide gentler treatments and faster healing time. Call us now to make an appointment.
Call Dr. B's Pediatric Dentistry today.
Okay, we're back. Everybody sit down, relax, because this is the part of the mortgage that is the scariest. And you're right. You know, income was okay, assets was. I mean, to me, that's kind of scary. Debt, I got all that, but credit is a big deal. So,
right. Again,
Why?
Again, it's all four. You need all four of the pieces to be in working order. Working order. Now,
Working order.
Working order. So we talked about income. We talked about debt. We talked about the assets. The last part of it is how is your credit? So it's one of the, and it's not the first question I ask people, but it is definitely one of them. So how's your credit? And some people will say, oh, my credit's excellent. I've got a 712 credit score. Yay, that is good. That's good starters. But there's more to it than that. So I will ask people, because I want to dive a little bit more, because sometimes we can get false credit scores.
Yeah, like say I go and I say, look, I went to creditkarma.com.
Then that's exactly what everybody says to me.
And they said I have an 800.
Exactly. Credit Karma says I have an 800. Good, great. That's a snapshot. All that is that's a snapshot. I'm not going to go into all of the background of credit, but the bottom line is a credit score is a good start, but that's not everything. They're going to look at your credit depth. They're going to look at your credit history. So, and there are certain things that can stop you. So, for example, I had somebody who said, well, I have a 712 credit score. Great. My next question to people is generally, have you had any bankruptcies, short sales, or foreclosures in the last 7 years? Because a lot of people, sadly, had that happen to them during the crazy years. They lost houses, or they had bankruptcies or something like that, the crash. And bad things happen to good people, and that's okay. And they've bounced back because someone told them you need to reestablish credit, which is absolutely correct. So now they have a 700 credit score, but they have a bankruptcy 3 years ago. Well, that's going to stop you from getting a mortgage in a lot of cases.
Okay.
Not necessarily all. We actually have another chart.
Her chart. You got charts everywhere.
And you know what? Look, see, and it's not me. It tells us exactly, this is from the government. If you have had a bankruptcy, a short sale, a foreclosure, a deed in lieu of foreclosure, anything like that, under a conventional loan, an FHA loan, a VA loan, or a USDA loan, they all have different guidelines. They have different guidelines. How long you have to wait? 3 years on a bankruptcy, 2 years on, or 2 years on a bankruptcy, 3 years on a foreclosure, 7 years on a foreclosure. It's different. It's different for all of them.
What about a repo?
Different.
So that's in there too. Okay.
So everything changes on credit. So it's not just score, is my point that I was getting across. The other point that I wanted to talk about with credit is a lot of people have misconceptions of what is reported and what's not reported on credit. So people will say, well, I have excellent credit. Okay, that's great. And then I'll say, do you know what your score is? And they say no. I'll actually send them to Credit Karma. At first, I'll say, why don't you do this? It's free.
Right.
Let's get a snapshot. Because if they come back to me and say, okay, I did that, or you know what else? A lot of credit cards will tell you on your statement, like Discover and Capital One, they tell you exactly what your credit. That's good too. I'll ask them that. Do you have one of those cards? Do you know what your credit score is on that? Because quite frankly, that gives me an idea. And if they tell me it's a 512, I know we probably have some problems that we need to work on a little bit, but if they tell me it's a 720, then I'm not as nervous and I still ask my questions, but at least I know that there's something on there. The other thing, so what I was talking about, what reports and what doesn't. So the things that report and the things that don't report. Your car insurance does not report. Your water bill does not report. Your electric bill does not report. Your cell phone bill does not report. So you're making all these great payments, timely payments to all of these utilities. They don't report unless you stiff them. If you stiff them and you belly up and you move to a different house and you didn't pay that electric bill, that'll catch up to you and that'll be a collection on your credit report. But as far as good credit goes, unfortunately, they don't report. So the things that do report is credit cards and loans. Those are the key things that are going to be on your credit report that are going to create your credit history for you. The other thing that doesn't report in most cases is your rent. Most of the time, your landlord is not reporting it either. Again, until you move out and he comes after you for the difference or something.
Well, they should put a law against that. If you're going to report bad, you got to report good.
I know, right?
That's what I think. But okay, so what is a trade line?
Things like each individual, so your car loan people, that's one trade line. Your Capital One card, that's another trade line. Your student loan, that's another trade line. Those are your trade lines. Each one of them are trade lines, and that's what I was talking about, which ones report and which ones don't.
Okay, and is it good to have, okay, say I've got credit cards and I get an offer from Amex to pay all my other ones off and get rid of them. Is that a good thing?
Excellent question. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Here's what I don't want you to do. That's fine if you wanted to consolidate or something, a couple of them or whatever, but don't close them out. Because the key things, people will ask me a lot, well, how can I get my credit score up? One of the best ways to get your credit score up, or one of the things that it looks for, is length of time. So not only make good payments, okay, but how long has it been open? Here's the biggest mistake that people make in the scenario that you just said. So you get a brand new credit card, American Express or whoever it is, and they give you a $20,000 credit limit. Day one, you max it out.
Oh.
Because you transferred all these other ones
debt.
over.
Right.
Day one, you maxed it out. That's going to report bad. That doesn't look good. And the other thing I tell people is don't close them out, because quite frankly, what the credit bureau likes is to see, well, look, he's got this credit card that has a $10,000 credit limit, but he only owes $100. That's good.
Okay.
It wants to see good credit management. So good credit management is you could go up to $10,000, but you don't. You only owe $100 or $500 on it or something. So you have good credit management. The other key thing with that is don't ever get near the top of your credit limit. So if you have a $10,000 credit line, don't go up to $9,999. That's going to hurt you a lot. And if you have all your cards way up there at the top, that's going to hurt. That's going to that's almost as bad as a late payment.
So I mean, I'm not saying go out and run your credit cards up to half, but
pay them down to half or less.
Yeah, keeping everything half or less is probably the best, right?
Right.
Okay.
A third. They say keep them at a third is the best. A third of whatever your credit limit is the best. So you know what I say to people? Use this card. Go get, because a lot of people, sadly, after the crash, they say, you know what? I'm afraid of credit cards. Got into too much trouble. I don't want to do that anymore. Well, you're hurting yourself. That's like the worst thing you can do, because keep in mind, as far as credit scoring goes, the credit bureaus, it's all computerized. There's no human eye that is sitting there looking at it and determining what your score is going to be. It's all done by computer. The computer doesn't know that you're back on your feet and you're back to, you're employed again and you're making good income. The computer has no idea. That's the other thing. People think income is on their credit report. No, it's not. No, it's not. So the computer, the credit bureaus, Equifax, Trinity, Union, and Experian, they have no idea you're back on your feet until you tell them you're back on your feet. And the only way for you to tell them you're back on your feet again is to get a credit card. So you have to establish new credit. You have to get a credit card, and you have to manage your credit card. Again, so I say get a credit card, even if it's something like, $500 or something, a $500 credit limit. Right. Get gas, pay it off. Get gas, pay it off. Get groceries, pay it off. That kind of thing. Use it, but use it very minimally, and don't let it get near the top.
Okay, so there's some famous financial gurus out there that tell you to get rid of all your credit cards. Get rid of your credit. No, you want to pay your stuff off and have no credit, so that way you live debt-free. But if you do that, then you don't have any credit. So how, if you ever want to go and buy a house, unless you're going to pay $300,000 in cash,
which is what those gurus that they call themselves would have you do, because they don't believe in debt at all. And that's great if you have $300,000 in cash sitting aside. And I'm not taking anything against those people, because I think that the concept that they use is excellent with paying off your credit cards. I'm just saying don't close them out, because once you close them out and you never use them again, or they go dormant and they're not going to factor into your scoring anymore. Which brings up your question that you had asked about not having any credit.
Yeah, so during the break I asked the question, okay, what if I don't have any credit?
Right. Sometimes,
am I in trouble?
Yeah, sometimes that's almost as bad as bad credit, believe it or not. It's almost as bad as bad credit. Now, in buying a house, we can sometimes do what's called alternative credit lines. That's where we are going to ask you, well, give me, 12 months canceled checks or a letter from, Duke Energy or whoever you have for your electric bill. I need a credit reference from them, a credit history from them. I need a credit history from maybe your cell phone people, from your water bill, from your car insurance place, something like that. We can create a credit report more or less for you. It's an alternative credit report, but it can work. It's going to be a little bit different, and it's going to be underwritten a little bit different, a little bit more conservatively, things like that, but it can be done.
So there you have it. That's all about mortgages. Oh my goodness, I am tired and I need a nap. This coffee did not do it for me. So let everybody know at home.
I said, welcome to my world.
Yeah. Wow. Tell them how they can find you and what's the best way to get a hold of you.
Sal. I was going to say I always have it with me, but
and there's her number right there on the table. It's right.
So there's my number. So you can call my cell. You can visit our website, which is closemyloantrinity.com. I have been doing mortgages forever, like we said in the beginning. So even if you just wanted to bounce some questions off of me or something, that's fine. I have no problem doing it. I've been qualifying people forever. I do highly recommend talking to somebody if you are considering buying a house. Talk to somebody first. You definitely have to get pre-approved, pre-qualified. Talk to somebody so that you're lined up properly. It does take a lot. People say, oh, it's so hard to get a mortgage. Yep, it is. But if you get with the right person, they're going to be able to walk you through it so that it's as painless as possible.
So remember, give her a call. She can answer your questions. And with that being said, thank you for coming on to Focus on a Business, our second episode, and it wasn't so bad. So, hey, stick around. We'll see everybody next week, and you have a good day.